The sun beat down on my neck as I stood at the edge of the construction site, my grandfather's faded survey map clutched in my sweaty hand. Just yesterday, this was Miller Land, my land, a sprawling sea of golden cornfields stretching to the horizon. Today it was a battlefield. Bulldozers, like monstrous yellow beasts, gnawed at the earth, their mechanical jaws ripping into the soil that had nourished generations of my family. The air, once filled with the sweet scent of corn and wildflowers, was thick with the acrid stench of diesel and dust. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic drumbeat against the chaos that had engulfed my inheritance. This land wasn't just property, it was a legacy. My grandfather, Joe Miller, had poured his heart and soul into this farm. He taught me the names of every wildflower, the secrets of the whispering wind, the way the earth smelled after a summer rain. Every inch of this land was etched with memories of hayrides and fishing trips, of fireflies winking in the twilight, of Grandpa's booming laughter and gentle wisdom. Now all of that was being bulldozed into oblivion. The developers, Sunny Pines, had slapped a sign on the edge of the property. 96 luxury homes coming soon. Luxury. As if the memory of my grandfather, the sweat of his brow, the love he'd sown into this land, could be quantified in dollars and square footage. I pictured Grandpa's face, his eyes crinkled with laughter, his hands calloused and strong. He'd worked this land since he was a boy, coaxing life from the stubborn soil, weathering droughts and storms, his spirit as resilient as the ancient oak that stood sentinel at the edge of the west field. He'd always said this land was in my blood, a part of me as much as my own two hands. Now, strangers were carving it up, erasing his legacy, turning it into just another soulless subdivision. I felt a surge of anger, hot and sharp as a lightning strike. This wasn't just about property lines and legal documents. This was about family, about memory, about the very soul of a place. They weren't just stealing land. They were stealing my past, my heritage, my connection to the man who'd shaped me into who I was. The old Miller farmhouse loomed before me, its paint peeling, its porch sagging. A relic of a time when things were simpler, when a man's word was his bond and a handshake sealed a deal. Now, even this was threatened. Inside, dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight, slanting through the grimy windows. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and forgotten things. I crossed the worn wooden floor, my footsteps echoing in the silence, and sank into Grandpa's old leather armchair. His presence lingered here, in the worn spines of his favorite books, in the faint scent of pipe tobacco that still clung to the curtains, in the faded photographs of family gatherings that lined the mantel. I closed my eyes, trying to conjure his voice, his laughter, the warmth of his hand on my shoulder, but the silence was heavy, broken only by the frantic chirping of a sparrow trapped somewhere in the eaves. I felt a pang of guilt, sharp and sudden. I hadn't visited as often as I should have, had let the distance and the demands of my city life keep me away. Now it was too late. I rose, my movements stiff, and crossed to Grandpa's roll-top desk. Its surface was cluttered with papers, faded receipts, old seed catalogues. I ran my hand over the smooth wood, feeling the ghosts of his touch. A glint of metal caught my eye. A key tucked into a small, hidden drawer. My heart quickened. This was it, the secret he'd hinted at, the reason he'd insisted I come. The key turned smoothly in the lock of an old metal box. Inside, nestled among yellow deeds and faded photographs, was a letter, its envelope bearing my name in Grandpa's familiar spidery scrawl. My hands trembled as I tore it open. His words, though written months ago, seemed to leap off the page, urgent and alive. He spoke of developers, of pressure, of a simple signature that was anything but. He spoke of a trap, a safeguard, a way to protect what was ours. Look to the old survey, he wrote, the one from 1910. Compare it to what they show at the county now. The truth is in the boundaries. My breath hitched. The boundaries. The very lines that defined this land, that marked the difference between what was ours and what was theirs. Hours blurred as I pored over maps and documents, the old survey spread out before me like a treasure map. The truth, when it emerged, was stark and undeniable. The developers weren't just building on the edge of our property. They were building on our land. The courthouse loomed before me, a cold, imposing monument to justice. Or at least, the idea of it. Inside, the air buzzed with hushed whispers and the rustle of legal documents. My footsteps echoed on the marble floor as I approached the clerk's desk, my grandfather's survey map clutched in my hand like a lifeline. "I need to file an injunction," I declared, my voice ringing with a newfound determination. "To stop construction on my property." The clerk, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a name tag that read Brenda, raised a skeptical eyebrow. "Do you have an attorney, sir?" "Not yet," I admitted, "but I will." Brenda sighed, her gaze sweeping over my worn jeans and dusty boots. "This could take months, even years," she warned. "These developers, they have deep pockets, high-powered lawyers." "I don't care," I interrupted, my voice firm. "This is my land. They're building on my land. I have proof." Brenda's eyes flickered to the survey map in my hand. "Proof?" "My grandfather's original survey," I explained, spreading the map on the counter. "It shows the true boundaries of the property. They've been altered, shifted. They're building on land that's rightfully mine." Brenda's eyes widened as she studied the map, her fingers tracing the faded lines. This is significant," she breathed, "but without an attorney." "I'll find one," I promised, my voice ringing with a confidence I didn't entirely feel. Someone who believes in justice, someone who won't be intimidated by their fancy suits and empty promises. The community center buzzed with an energy I hadn't felt since the annual Miller family reunions. Tonight, though, the air crackled with a different kind of excitement, a mix of anger, fear, and a desperate hope. I stood on the makeshift stage, the glare of the overhead lights hot on my face, and looked out at the sea of faces. These weren't just names on a petition. They were families, neighbors, people whose lives had been upended by the Sunny Pines development. "They're building on my land," I declared, my voice ringing with a newfound confidence. "Land that's been in my family for generations." They altered the boundaries, shifted the lines, stole what was rightfully ours. A murmur rippled through the crowd, a mix of disbelief and outrage. I held up the survey map, its faded lines a stark contrast to the glossy brochures the developers had distributed. "This is the original survey," I explained, my voice ringing with conviction. "It shows the true boundaries of the property. They've been changed, manipulated. They're building on land that's rightfully mine." A woman in the front row, her face etched with worry, raised her hand. "But what about our homes?" she asked, her voice trembling. "We bought in good faith. We had no idea." "I know," I said, my voice softening. "And I'm not here to take your homes. I'm here to expose the truth, to hold these developers accountable, to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." A man in the back row stood up, his face flushed with anger. "They're bullies," he declared, his voice ringing with a raw emotion. "They think they can just come in here and take what they want, bulldoze our lives, our memories." "They can't," I interrupted, my voice ringing with a newfound determination. "Not if we stand together. Not if we fight back." The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension. On one side, the Sunny Pines lawyers, their suits sharp, their briefcases bulging with documents. On the other, me, my lawyer, and a stack of evidence that told a story of greed, manipulation, and blatant disregard for the law. The judge, a stern-faced woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, listened patiently as the Sunny Pines lawyers presented their case. Their voices smooth and confident, their arguments laced with legalese and carefully crafted narratives. They painted a picture of a well-intentioned development, a minor oversight, a simple misunderstanding. Then it was our turn. My lawyer, a fiery woman named Sarah, stood before the judge, her voice ringing with conviction. She presented the evidence, piece by piece, laying bare the truth. The altered survey, the forged documents, the backroom deals, the blatant attempts to deceive. The Sunny Pines lawyers squirmed in their seats, their faces flushed, their carefully constructed facade crumbling. The judge's expression grew sterner, her eyes narrowing as the evidence mounted. The final blow came when we presented the letter from my grandfather, the one he'd written years ago, warning of the developer's tactics. His words, though written long before, echoed through the courtroom, a stark reminder of the developer's long history of manipulation and deceit. The judge slammed her gavel, her voice ringing with authority. "This court finds in favor of the plaintiff," she declared. "The Sunny Pines development is hereby halted. The original survey is to be reinstated. Furthermore, the court will forward evidence of financial fraud to the district attorney for further investigation." A collective gasp filled the courtroom. The Sunny Pines lawyers looked stunned, their faces pale. Diane Reynolds, the face of the development, sat rigid, her eyes wide with disbelief. We had won. In the days that followed, the news spread like wildfire. The story of the small landowner who stood up to the powerful developers captured the attention of the media, the public, and even the state legislature. The district attorney launched an investigation into the Sunny Pines HOA, uncovering a web of corruption and financial fraud that went far beyond the boundaries of my land. Diane Reynolds and her associates were indicted on multiple charges, their reputations tarnished, their careers in ruins. Jok Tai Liu Jin Huan, Tat Kau Traloi. I didn't set out to become a savior, a champion, or a beacon of hope. I was just a man trying to protect what was rightfully mine, to honor the memory of the man who'd shaped me, guided me, and instilled in me the values that now burned like a fire in my soul. But the fight, it changed me. It wasn't just about the land anymore, about the stolen acres and the fraudulent deeds. It was about the people, the ones who'd been wronged, the ones who'd been silenced, the ones who'd lost faith in a system that seemed rigged against them. I saw their faces in the flickering light of the community center, heard their voices trembling with a mixture of fear and anger. They were homeowners, mothers, fathers, children. Their lives intertwined with the very land that was now under siege. They'd been promised a dream, a slice of paradise, but instead they'd found themselves trapped in a nightmare of escalating fees, arbitrary rules, and the constant fear of losing everything. Their stories echoed my own. Their struggles mirrored my fight. We were all victims, bound together by a shared sense of injustice, a collective wound that ran deep. But we were also fighters, survivors, unwilling to surrender to the forces that sought to crush us. And so, we rose up, a ragtag army of ordinary people, armed with nothing but our determination, our outrage, and our unwavering belief in what was right. We formed a coalition, a united front against the developers, the lawyers, the politicians, the powerful elite who thought they could bulldoze their way into our lives and steal our dreams. We marched, we protested, we filed lawsuits. We spoke, truth to power, our voices ringing with a newfound strength, a collective roar that could no longer be ignored. We were David facing Goliath, a tiny band of rebels standing against an empire. We won some battles. We lost others. We faced setbacks, betrayals, and moments when the weight of it all threatened to crush us. But through it all, we never wavered, never gave up hope. We knew that our fight was just, our cause was righteous, our victory was inevitable. And when it was all over, when the dust had settled and the smoke had cleared, we didn't just rebuild our community, we transformed it. We created a place where everyone had a voice, where everyone was treated with respect, where everyone had the opportunity to thrive. We built a community where the lessons I learned from my grandfather weren't just words on a page, but a way of life. We honored his legacy not by clinging to the past, but by creating a future where everyone had the chance to build their own legacy, to leave their own mark on the world.